You're listening to the No Schedule Man podcast with Kevin Bulmer, exploring real stories and lessons learned with a variety of special guests. To learn more about Kevin and to access other episodes of the podcast, please visit noscheduleman.com and connect and contribute at No Schedule Man on Twitter or Instagram and on Facebook, YouTube, and SoundCloud, all /No Schedule Man. Thanks for listening and enjoy the No Schedule Man podcast.
Hi, I'm Kevin Bulmer. Thanks for finding us and for taking some time to listen. I hope you enjoy the program. Before we get started with the conversation with today's guest, Chad Price, just a quick note to let you know that the podcast is now available on iTunes. I'm pretty happy about that. Now, you can still find us on SoundCloud and YouTube as usual, but all along I was hoping that we'd be accepted into the iTunes universe, and you can find us there now. So I don't know what your habits are, but for me, I've got a few podcasts that I like to download every week, and just go and sync that up on my computer, connect the iPod up, and then away you go. So it's kind of fun to have my own podcast right alongside those. So I hope you'll go and investigate finding us on iTunes, if that's the program that you use. Now, having kind of achieved that, got us up onto the iTunes universe, that also got me thinking back about why I started the podcast in the first place. And I think it's as simple as just wanting to have some sort of an outlet to share the stories and the insights from people that I think are interesting, people that are real, and that I feel have something of value to offer the rest of us as we go through life and navigate relationships and as we consider our hopes and dreams. Basically, if I feel that a person has something of value to share along those lines, they're going to be welcome here. And I don't really care all that much whether others have heard of them before or not. I'm looking for people that have had real experiences, that are going through some of the same struggles and triumphs as you and I are. Find out what they're doing, what's working, maybe what's not, and we can all maybe learn from each other. For instance, I was playing back part of the podcast with Rose Coraperi on it. That was the last one that we posted. And I was playing that for my two sons, and particularly my 13-year-old. There was a passage in something that Rose said that I really felt would relate to my son, who at 13 is obviously just about to go through that roller coaster of being a teenager. So I played the clip of what Rose shared about a time in her life that she navigated and how she felt about it, played it, paused it, looked back at him and said, "Sound familiar?" And he just looked me right in the eye and he said, "Yeah, Dad, absolutely." In fact, Rose had several little gems in that podcast that I thought we could just clip out and think, you know what, that's really good advice for life. But that's my interpretation. I'll leave yours to you, but I want for my son, for you, for myself, for all of us to know we're not alone, and sometimes feeling frustrated and even a little lost as we try to figure life out. But all of us are trying to do that, and you can have success as evidenced by the guest that we have on today, Chad Price. Now, you'll probably hear, especially if you know me at all, you'll hear my genuine interest in Chad and Chad's work. I felt like a kid in a candy shop listening to him. And I peppered poor Chad with questions for almost an hour after we were finished recording, because when he was telling stories about some of the things that he had done, I was thinking in my mind, as he was talking in the conversation that you're just about to hear, I was thinking, well, how did you do that? How did you do that? How did you do that? So I made some notes and I asked him all those questions afterwards. I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, what made me think of reaching out to Chad, because he and I don't, or didn't at least, even really know each other all that well. But something told me to get in touch with him and to ask if he'd come and join me for one of these podcasts, and I'm really glad I did. I met Chad for the first time at an event in Tillsonburg, Ontario, last November. I do a little bit of work donating my time to try to help out the Lung Association here in southwestern Ontario. And they did a concert there was a concert that was done by Sarah Pratt from SEP Productions trying to benefit the Lung Association. That's more to the point. And I was asked to be there as the MC and to start the night by performing a song called Broken Breath that I had written about being a child with asthma, but that's another story. So I did that song and I emceed the night. Chad was one of the performers there that night. Met a lot of really cool people that evening, but as far as the performing was concerned, when Chad took the stage and started singing, I kind of stood up and took notice. I was really, really impressed with what Chad did, and peppered him with questions later that night as to how he was playing the guitar and some other things as well, and we referenced that in this conversation. Now, in this chat, you're going to hear me make a bit of a fuss over his talent, particularly as a singer, and you're also going to notice that Chad is really laid back when he speaks. So, for the benefit of the conversation, And in case you don't know who Chad Price is and have not heard him sing before, I think that you're going to get more out of this, especially the first part of this podcast conversation, if you've had the chance to actually hear him. So here's just a little clip of Chad Price. This is from a song called Another Day, which he's going to reference in our chat. Here's a clip.
Another day, another way to make you go, to make you stay. So much to know, but you turn away. Hey, hey.
Now that song, in addition to being on his debut record called In This Dream, has also been used in an episode of the TV show Degrassi. Now, real quick, here's another clip of another one of Chad's songs that he's going to reference. This one's called Where the Stars Come Out. This was used as part of an NCAA basketball tournament promo on TSN a few years ago. I absolutely love this song. Here's a quick clip of it.
This world is simpler than we make it, simpler than we make it. Heaven is under our feet and over our heads, where the stars come out.
Okay, so now that you've heard a little bit about what this guy sounds like when he's performing, at least the recorded version of that, I think you're going to appreciate his story even more. And hang in there for an off-the-floor performance of a song that hasn't even been released yet, okay? Here's my conversation with Chad Price on the No Schedule Man podcast. So California Dreamin'.
Wow.
How'd you start with that?
How did I start with that? That's some good research. That was my first song that I put on YouTube, I believe.
Well, I saw that the views of that thing is pumped up to over 68,000.
Yeah.
So somebody likes it.
Somebody's
watching.
I guess I'm doing something right.
But why the mamas and the papas?
I have an appreciation for music from every era, and I've always liked that song. And I believe when I put that up, I saw a cover of it from John Mayer, and you might not know, but John Mayer is probably my biggest musical influence. So I was inspired by his cover of it, and I decided to put my own spin on it, put it on YouTube, and see what people would have to say about it.
Why do you think that one's connected so much? I mean, you've got other videos that into the thousands. For people obviously are enjoying what you're putting out there, but that one jumped right out at me, and I thought, I got to watch this.
Yeah. I have no idea what it is about that one. It's just me in my bedroom with a guitar. I don't know, maybe the intimacy of it, the throwback of a song that it is, something that people don't really hear too much acoustically. But yeah, for whatever reason, people seem to respond to that, and I'm not mad at them for it. Thank you, people. Thank you, YouTubers.
Go to YouTube and pump in Chad Price, just like it sounds, but just in case you're not sure. ChadPrice or ChadPriceMusic.com. Check this guy out. So, we were talking before we started recording about, I was relating the story of how I thought a long time about trying to do a podcast or starting a podcast before I finally did it. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning of the video, when you sing California Dreamin', you're sitting there and you say something about, I'd been thinking about doing something on YouTube for a while, so here I am. And tell me about thinking about it and then finally making the leap to do it.
Okay. Well, yeah, that was a bit of a process for me to actually put myself out there, because I've never been the type of person that really likes the limelight or wants to be front and center. I'm a pretty low-key guy. So I actually made that when I was in university. I went to university at Brock University in St. Catharines. That was in the summer, and when I was in Brock University, some friends jammed with me all the time. I had my guitar up there, and that's when I really realized that I had at least a morsel of talent with music. So I didn't really know I could sing. I started singing at 19 at university. My friends encouraged me to do so, and eventually they pushed me to get something out there in front of people, because I wasn't convinced that I was that great, but my friends really pushed me. Jordan Sharp, thanks, buddy. So I decided to put that out there and just see what would happen. Kind of like it was a test. It was a personal test to see what would happen.
So you weren't convinced. Are you convinced now?
Well, now I am, but it didn't happen overnight. I'll put it that way. Only recently have I really felt like I've finally hit my stride with music as far as my guitar ability and my vocal ability. But back then, I was just kind of, I don't know what I was doing back then, but if anything, it just let me know that I had some kind of talent.
So you weren't trained to be able to sing like that?
No, I didn't start singing till I was 19 or 20 years old. It was something completely brand new to me.
Why did you start?
I started. There was a bit of a life change in that I went away for university to St. Catharines. That was the first time I've been away from home, really. So I lived there, and I don't know what it was. Something about university, meeting new people, being on my own, and really getting into new music that I was just discovering, like Dallas Green, John Mayer. These people really inspired me. And I was there on my own, and I had a lot of time on my hands in between classes, and I decided to, let's see what happens if I dabble in writing. So I started writing some stuff, and as soon as I started writing, I developed a passion for it. So that was the spark, actually creating something out of nothing. That developed a passion in me, and I've been good at a lot of things in my life, but I've never really had passion for a lot of things. So as soon as I felt that passion for music, I knew that was it. That's what I needed to pursue, and I kept pursuing it, still am pursuing it, and that's how it started. Yeah.
So you wrote, and then you needed somebody to sing what you were writing?
I would sing it by myself, not in front of anyone. Again, not knowing if I was any good or not, really. And like inch by inch, I would start showing people a little bit of something here and there, just to test it out and see what people thought. Like my friends at Brock University, I showed them first. And then my family. I showed my family, and they were absolutely flabbergasted when they learned that I had any kind of musical talent, because they didn't know. I played guitar always as a hobby since I was about 10 years old. But as far as, really showing off my talent or pursuing it, that wasn't a thing. It was just a hobby, right?
So you weren't opening up your mouth and singing along through all those years?
No, I was just playing my guitar, just playing chords, learning songs.
What were you playing? Hang Down Your Head, Tom Dooley?
I was playing a lot of stuff. A lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers. I remember growing up on them a lot. A lot of old school stuff like Dylan and Neil Young, Cat Stevens. But that's where it started and ended, just playing these songs. Didn't want to sing. Didn't know I could sing, actually.
So you mentioned before we started recording about John Mayer.
Yeah.
And that was one of the artists that really lit a spark on you. You mentioned him again when you were just talking about being away in St. Catharines. Was there... Yeah, maybe make that connection for me, because I can tell just by your body language that there is one where that passion came in. Something lit a fire under you.
Yeah, I'm laughing because it's hard for me not to mention John Mayer whenever someone asks me about my music. He was definitely a huge, huge influence in that. Well, it would have been about 2001, 2002 when I first discovered his music, and I've never heard music, and I grew up on the acoustic guitar. I've never heard a guy take the acoustic guitar and make it do the things that he makes it do. So I was immediately just amazed at his sheer raw talent. And when you see talent like that, you become inspired. There's no other way around it. And I was definitely inspired. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to make the music that he was making. I wanted to be that good at guitar. I'm failing. I'm still not as good as him, but I'm trying. So John Mayer really did light that spark and get everything going as far as inspiration. So
it's interesting for me to hear you talk about the way that somebody else played guitar, because the night that you and I met was at an event last November in Tillsonburg.
Right. I
can't even remember the name of the venue. It doesn't really matter. But we were there for a fundraising event and a concert benefiting the Lung Association. And you and I obviously were both there. You went up and did your set, and as soon as you started playing, I remember thinking, oh, man. Okay, we've just sort of hit another gear here. But I was trying to figure out how you were making the guitar sound the way that it sounded. And do you remember me bugging you after that?
I do, actually, yeah.
Because I was at you at the back of the room saying, like, are you using a pick? Are you doing a palm mute? Or how are you playing that? And similar thing.
Yeah, I guess so.
You're my John Mayer.
Oh, thank you.
But was that a style that you were just using that night?
No, I actually use that style a lot. I know what you're talking about. It's I don't use a pick often. That's just my fingernail and a certain kind of slapping technique. Maybe I'll demonstrate later. I'll play a song or two. But that's just something that I developed really because I wasn't able to be John Mayer. And sometimes you're really defined by your limitations, I've found throughout my career. So that's my limitation of not being able to be John Mayer has kind of given me my own type of sound and style, which I'm very grateful for now.
See, I was excited when I saw some of your YouTube videos. I thought, he's using a pick. He's human. I could probably play something like that after all.
Yeah, well, here and there I use a pick. Yeah, and a lot of those videos were earlier on in my career, and I hadn't really developed a style yet. But yeah.
So just about any artist. I mean, when you start out, doesn't matter whether you're singing or you're playing or you're painting or you're drawing, writing. Mm-hmm. We all have people that we aspire to be like, or whose work we want to get ours to a similar level. And so I think it's natural, just in my view, feel free to disagree, that when you start out, I don't want to even say that you're emulating, but you're kind of aspiring to be somewhat like whoever inspired you. Follow me so far?
Yeah,
you agree?
Absolutely.
Then at some point, if you stay at it long enough, you reach a point where you realize I'm probably better off being me than trying to be whomever it is that we're emulating. And I think at some point in all of this, you kind of crossed over and weren't trying to play like John Mayer, weren't trying to sound like Ed Sheeran or whomever else, maybe paying homage to those people, but doing that by sounding like Chad Price. Is it fair to say that you reached that mindset at some point along the road?
You nailed it. Absolutely.
Well, then tell me about what that process was of when you finally got there.
Okay. Actually, I've recently got to that point where I realized that I have finally found my voice, my own distinct individual musical voice.
Let me just interrupt you for a second, because I think this is important for people that are listening. The date that I saw on the video where you did California Dreamin', it said 2009.
Yep.
That's 7 years ago.
Yeah, that's when
and
it all
you've
started.
been working at it every single day.
That's right.
For 7 years.
That's right.
And you just recently are feeling like, okay, I'm Chad and I'm happy to be.
That's right. And
please continue. I think that's important. Well, everybody
It is.
wants to have it all figured out yesterday.
You're right.
It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't. Rarely does it, and I don't think it should, because you need to craft your own identity in music, and that does take a long time if you're doing it the right way. At least if you're a true artist and you just don't want the overnight fame, which a lot of people are after, which is stupid, if you ask me. But yeah, it takes a long time. This is professionally, it's about my 6th year into it, this music thing. I have an album that I released in 2012, professionally made, produced in LA and Toronto. I've toured across Canada, done parts of the US. I've accomplished some things. I've had music on TV. But just recently, within the last year, now I finally feel like I've become who I'm supposed to be. I finally hit my stride. Put it that way. I've hit my stride now.
But what does that mean?
It means that, like we were talking about earlier, when you start, you want to emulate someone. I wanted to emulate John Mayer, mainly. While you're on that ride, eventually, whether you mean to or not, you eventually become your own person. You diverge from the path, and you're like, oh, what's this? I didn't expect to find this. I was just trying to be John Mayer. Meanwhile, oh, here's my own voice. I have my own thoughts and things that I want to get out and tell the world. So it's like you accidentally find yourself. I kind of accidentally found myself musically. And now that I'm there, I'm super excited to get my music out there because it's 100% me. My first album, I'm very proud of that album that I made with Bill Bell, who is Jason Mraz's guitar player and musical director. He's a great producer. But that wasn't really me. It's very pop. It's me trying to find myself. And if you go back and listen to that album, you'll realize that it's an earlier version of me trying to find what it is that I have to say and who I am. But with the new stuff that I'm working on now, it's refined. It knows exactly what it is, and I think that'll come across as I'll come across as a polished musician, as opposed to someone who's just trying to find their way.
I'm interested to hear what that's going to sound like, because I've listened through In This Dream, and to my ears it sounds pretty polished. But we're probably having a vocabulary battle here now too. Maybe. And I'm going to rewind us back about 5 minutes, because I still. Maybe I'll ask you this first, Chad. Okay. Have you since had vocal training?
I've still not had vocal training.
I'm having... No. Okay. So when you're listening to this podcast, I want you to press pause right now. Put down your iPod, pause the YouTube, or however you're listening to it, and go find Chad. Well, buy his album. That's what I want you to do. Failing that, for a preview, go to his YouTube channel and just pick a video, doesn't matter which one, and listen to this guy sing for a couple moments. I don't mean to bludgeon you over the head with this dead horse, but I'm having trouble getting my mind wrapped around that you didn't really sing until you're about 19, and that you can sing like that. Thanks. It's and that's not even really a question, but it's a compliment. How's that?
Thanks. You're really hyping me up for the listeners here.
There's a sincerity. I experienced it firsthand. You can listen to somebody on CD through YouTube or any of those outlets, and that's all well and fine. And this is probably going to sound, I don't know, maybe a little pretentious or artsy. I don't know. I don't consider myself a singer or guitar player, but I've written songs for as long as I can remember for my own enjoyment, and I've had the experience of being in a studio. It's not like standing in front of somebody and delivering that song, with just your voice, or just your voice and your guitar, or with the band. It's a different experience. It feels different. It sounds different. I had the experience of being in the same room when you opened up your mouth and started singing, and my immediate reaction was, "Damn, we're on to something here." Yeah. And but I do think, having said that, Chad, that the recordings that I've heard of you capture that just about as well as most artists that I've come across, because you've got people just have to listen and form their own opinions. But your voice has such a natural, I don't want to say soulful, because that sounds almost cliche. It is soulful, but just very sincere and relaxed and natural sounding. You don't sound to me like you're trying, which is a really high compliment.
Thank you.
When I sing, you can hear that, man, that guy's really trying to try to avoid the auto-tune. Right. So tell me about when you started singing. How long was it before you finally accepted, you know what, I am pretty good at this, and I think I'm just going to let it roll?
Yeah. That took a while to finally accept that I could sing. If you were able to hear some of my earlier recordings, I feel like you might say some other things that are very different from what you're saying right now. But I can't listen to recordings before 2012, really, of myself. It just it makes me cringe. But other people say they're okay, but to me, they're terrible. They're terrible. Sorry, what was the question? What did you...
I was listening to you so much I kind of forgot, but I think what I had asked you...
Don't mean to lull you into...
Well, you described... You put me to sleep, man.
Sorry.
I know, I'm joking.
Terrible at
You
interviews.
were talking about that you got to the point where you were, I think you said 19, and you hadn't even really done much singing, if at all, up to that point. Then you started singing, and then you were only sharing in bits and pieces, and then you eventually got to a point where you thought, you know what, I'm pretty good at this. And what that point was.
Okay. Yeah, it did take a while. And again, like I was talking about before, how I just recently feel like I finally hit my stride. Same with my vocals. Like, this is a recent thing for me where I am 100% comfortable. I believe like I can perform at any time with very little preparation. I can put on a professional, polished show. And again, that takes years to form. So again, within the last year, the last year I really took a huge step professionally and in what I'm able to accomplish, what I'm able to do. So now I finally feel like a professional musician. It took me 6 or 7 years.
So when did you finally get to the stage?
The stage. 2011 was the first time that I hit the stage in Toronto at the Annex Rec Room.
How did you get there?
It was a Canadian Music Week show, and I had some music. I didn't have my album out yet, but I had just graduated from university.
So at this point, you had not performed in front of people?
No, not really.
You thought you'd just show up at Canadian Music
That's right.
Week. Okay.
Yeah.
Please continue.
That's right. Well, I'd performed in front of friends in like my dorm room. That's about it. And family, I've heard some of my demo recordings. But as far as the general public, no, they had never heard me perform.
Well, and even the difference in sound of hearing your voice coming back through you through monitors or a PA, it's a different deal.
Oh, yeah.
Who's talking? Oh. I put that thing...
What's going on there?
Didn't I put that thing on mute and it's talking to us? Holy cow. You know what we need to do is... Input interpretation, Friends television series, it says. Oh, I was going to ask this phone if it has heard of you.
Oh.
But I don't know how to make it do that thing again, so instead I'm just going to turn it off.
Well, that's okay. It probably hasn't.
Holy cow. Real life happening to you right in front of your ears. So you're at Canadian Music Week, and I was just saying that even if you've never performed on stage before, sitting in a living room and playing and just hearing things naturally is one thing, but all of a sudden hearing the guitar going out through the speakers to an audience and your voice coming back through a PA, that's so you hadn't had that experience yet?
No, I hadn't had it yet.
Okay, so now you show up at Canadian Music Week.
Canadian Music Week, I've rehearsed for a couple of weeks with my band, and it was terrifying. It was really terrifying for me being, like I mentioned earlier, a very low-key person who likes to fade into the background. Here I am, front and center, the front man on stage, having to having the task of entertaining a room full of 150 people. So it was terrifying, but I got through it. Luckily, I had all kinds of friends and family that were there to show support, which helped me get through that performance. And from that was the starting point from the live show. From then on out, it was just playing and constantly getting better, constantly playing, constantly getting better, having terrible shows, having good shows. That's what you need to do in order to progress as a musician.
Tell me about a show that you remember is just about everything going wrong.
London Music Club, probably 2011 or 12.
What happened?
I'm up there performing in front of a small room, maybe 50 people, and I'm playing my songs, and there's this one song I play where the tuning is kind of weird, and I got to tune my guitar to a certain tuning to play it, and I completely forgot which tuning I'm supposed to go to. So in between songs, I'm like doing stage banter, I'm trying to keep people entertained, and I'm like, oh, 1 sec, folks, I'm just having some trouble here, technical difficulties, and it just went on way too long. It was like a 5-minute lull. And I'm like, oh, what am I doing? It was mortifying. And I just felt like, why am I in music? I can't even remember the tuning to this song. Anyways, I eventually found it and played it. But at that point, I had lost everyone and I felt terrible. And that's one that stands out.
It doesn't sound like they rioted or anything, though.
No, they didn't riot. I didn't get booed. I just know that I made people feel uncomfortable in the crowd. And that's the last thing you want to do as an entertainer. Oh, well. I had more bad shows. That wasn't the only one. Yeah?
Well, then give me another. We're going to do the yin to this yang in a minute, though. But you know, these people like to hear these stories. Sorry, but they're
that's fine.
They're well-earned scars. You may as well have a laugh over them, right?
Absolutely. And any young aspiring musician, you should realize that this will happen to you too at some point.
Yep.
And you have to go through it, and that's what makes you a better musician at the end of the day. But another one was, I forget where I was playing actually, but I had rented a guitar for this performance, and as soon as I started playing the first song, there was no sound coming through the PA. I had my full band with me. I'm not hearing my guitar. No one's hearing my guitar. I played 2 full songs with my guitar volume down because my Taylor that I used, I don't have a volume knob, so I'm not used to dealing with that stuff. This guitar I rented, you got to turn the volume up. I didn't remember to do that because I suck. And so I did 2 songs without any guitar. I'm pretty harsh. I'm hard on myself, folks. But I played 2 songs without any guitar, and I felt pretty stupid about that one.
So you're not used to even hearing it come back in the monitors?
No, I'm used to that. I thought that there was a technical issue with the guitar.
Gotcha.
I'm like, oh, I rented this broken guitar. Thanks.
I don't know how you even heard it enough to be able to keep playing along.
I was pretty much pantomiming on stage. It was weird.
Yeah, I've done that. I've been in bands where I've done that. Because you know why?
Why?
Because I suck too.
Cheers.
But the company's good. Let's do the flip side of that. Okay. Tell me about a gig or two that just left you going, you know what? Mm-hmm. These are the kinds of experiences why I slog through all the other stuff.
Yeah, there definitely is the other side of the coin. And I've gotten to do some pretty cool things and open for some really great artists. And one of my favorite ones so far was opening for Lights. Excuse me. Opened for Lights here in London at the Western Fair in 2013. And playing in front of maybe 1,200, 1,300 people was pretty awesome. The energy that they brought. And the fact that I performed really well and the band was awesome. It felt great. It makes you, like you said, it makes you feel good about the choices you've made to become a musician. Because there's a lot of times where you're like, you question yourself in this industry. But that was one that definitely made me pat myself on the back and say you're doing the right thing.
You've been at this long enough and have been delivering a quality high enough for a consistent amount of time that you've got to have built up a core group of fans that when you do a gig, certainly here in London, I would think that you've got to have some people out there that know not just your whole thing, but know your songs. Mm-hmm. And you've had to have had the experience, I'm guessing, that you get into one of your tunes and you hear somebody singing your words back to you while you're singing. What's that feel like?
Yeah, that happens from time to time, and it still surprises me, but it's a pretty awesome feeling. And people connect with your music, and it actually means something enough in their life that they remember it and can sing it back to you. That's pretty special, and that happens now. I can finally really impress people, I feel like, when I do a show now. I'm not worried about, am I going to suck tonight? Is this going to be a good show? Now it's 100% guarantee I'm going to put on a good show. And I think people in London at least know that too, and it's helped me develop a good core following of fans who, hopefully you are one now. Who
I was one already, right?
Right, cool, thank you.
Otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Exactly. But I feel like right now word is finally traveling, at least in London and parts of Ontario, about this young Chad Price kid who is doing good things and destined for some good things in music. It's finally starting to come together.
It's funny too, Chad, I think how in this age of all of these tools that we have to communicate with each other online, on smartphones, all this sort of stuff, you've never been able to reach out to somebody quicker than you can now. Mm-hmm. And yet, in order to really move forward, like with what you're just describing, there's no substitute for just meeting people, shaking a hand, singing a song, making an impression, and then having them go on and say, you've got to see who I just met or listen to this. And because what I did when I got back to work the Monday morning after we were at that concert on the Sunday night, is I went right to some people that work with me at Virgin Radio in London and said, have you heard of Chad Price? Do you know what he's doing? Because if you don't, you need to. Because you were doing, I can't remember, forgive me, all the songs that you did that night. But it was the Sam Smith, Ed Sheeran mixed with some of your own stuff, kind of in that vein. Is that a fair assessment, do you think?
Yeah, that's fair.
And I immediately thought, it's not my job to program the radio station, but immediately my thought was I'd need to tell people, I'm not your marketing or PR guy, but I was impressed and I was excited. I thought, how do I don't know, maybe going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but we have in this culture, in my opinion, such this idea of celebrity. It's got to be in a certain city or at a certain level in order to be good. Mm-hmm. But if you just open up your eyes and you open up your ears, you'll see that there's quality in all walks of life and in all different kinds of work and creativity right beside you. Yeah. And it literally, when you started singing, I just thought, where in the world did this guy come from? You grew up right around the corner from where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and I didn't know that until today. But and as an artist, that's frustrating sometimes when you know that a lot of people think like that. Well, how many hit songs have you had? Well, what radio stations are playing? Well, you know what? Why don't you just listen to me sing, and then you can form your own judgments, right? But you've got to do the work and put in the time to go and do that. And it's a thankless, thankless road, isn't it?
It certainly can be. But what's the most gratifying part for me has always been playing live shows, getting to actually meet the people who come out, pay money to see you, and making a connection with them. That you can't beat that. And that's what independent, up-and-coming artists like me, we need. We need folks like you, Kevin. I need the word of mouth that you create and the support that you give me. And I can't do that without getting out to live shows and showing people what I can do firsthand right in front of them. So I love playing live. That's what I'll always be doing.
I want to ask you about In This Dream and some more things specific to your music and career and what you've done and where you're going, but I also am sensing that this might be a good time if you're feeling up to it. And just so you know, Chad let me know yesterday that he's been battling a bit of a cold that's been going around. Do you feel like trying a song?
I could try it and see how it goes.
Okay, I'm going to hit pause on this machine and let you get your guitar out, and then we're going to let the people that are listening have a listen to what Chad sounds like. All right, so even though you're battling the cold, you're just going to sound a little bit more soulful?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to sound like a chain-smoking old bluesman right now.
He doesn't smell like an old chain-smoking bluesman, but do you want to say anything about what you're going to share with us here?
So this song, it's a new one. It's going to be on the next album. It's called Home, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
Fair enough. Fire away.
Tell me something that you dreamed up last night. Did I make an appearance? Because you sure made one in mine. I placed a diamond ring on your finger, but you complained about the storm. Even in my dreams, you can't leave well enough alone. I used to know where all these roads used to go. And I'll fight till the end. I'll find you again. Be the light that guides me back home. That guides me back home. Remember back when I used to sing you that song? Yes, I did. I messed up all the words and got the chords all wrong. But you would sit and listen with a smile so real, so real. You said it's not about the words, it's about the way I made you feel. I used to know where all these roads used to go. And I'll fight till the end. I'll find you again. Be the light that guides me back home. That guides me back home. Where is home now? 'Cause I can't find it. Wherever you are is how we used to define it. Well, I still remain. I stand unchanged, unwavering love. find a new way. I used to know where all these roads used to go, and I'll fight till the end. I'll find you again, be the light that guides me back home. I used to know where all these roads used to go, and I'll fight till the end. I'll find you again, be the light that guides me back home, that guides me back home. No, baby, baby, yeah.
So that's going to be on the new record?
Yes, sir.
Man, that song's got a wicked hook to it.
Thank you.
A wicked hook.
Thanks.
I'd love to hear you singing it when you're feeling well. That's
yeah, sorry about the cold.
Huh? No. That's I meant that as a compliment, because you get a hack like me over here. I'm going to leave my guitar downstairs because I listen to you singing and I just kind of hang my head in shame.
There's still time, Kev. There's still time.
We're going to need every single minute of it. But you said before you played that song, here, if you want to take a minute and set the guitar down, go right ahead. You said, I think, that there was something about a relationship that went into that song, one that didn't have a happy ending.
Yeah. A lot of the songs that are coming out of me right now are kind of gloomy, breakup-y type of songs. I went through a breakup about 3 or 4 years ago, and now I'm finally able to write about this situation. I think bad situations in life make for some of the best songs. So the music that I'm creating now, although it's a little bit, it's a little darker than other stuff I've written, it's great music.
I would call it relatable.
Relatable. There, I like that. I'm gonna use that.
If you've been around for a while at all, you're going to see and experience some things, and not all of them are going to be among your top 5 greatest moments ever.
That's right.
And so when you, what was the line? Forgive me for not having it exactly down, but I gave you a ring and you complained about the stone.
Yeah. I'm talking about a dream in the song. Tell me something that you dreamed up last night. Did I make an appearance? Because you made one in mine. I placed a diamond ring on your finger, but you complained about the stone. Even in my dreams, you can't leave well enough alone. I love that. Yeah, thanks.
Love that.
Thank you.
Love it.
It's just a situation where kind of whatever you do is not enough. And ultimately, that song's about kind of wanting to find the love again, and for that person to be the one to guide you back to that love that you had that was so strong.
I got 2 different directions that I want to take you down, and I can't decide which one. I want to ask you about your writing process and how that comes together, but I also want to continue on. Try to remember about the writing process. Will you help
Sure.
a brother out?
Yeah, I got you.
Because you said that it took you 3 or 4 years to get to where you could finally write about it after it happened, and wanting to believe in the love again. Trying to figure out how to form this into a question, because I can relate. I remember I put out a CD in 2010. It's called No Schedule Man. It had songs on it called things like Hope Over Hurt, stuff like that. And things changed in a very significant way for me shortly after that. And I went through a period, I'm not trying to make this about me, but just trying to set it up. But I went through a period of wondering whether I still believed in what I had written and sung.
Right.
And it took a while, but I eventually came back around to I decided that I just needed to kind of go through the woods to get out the other side. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you still believe in love too.
Yeah, I still believe in love. I'm a hopeful type of guy, not overly romantic, but hopeful. And a lot of my songs these days are about love, and it's the most cliche thing ever, but it's cliche for a reason.
Well, it depends on how you say it, though, Chad.
What do you mean?
Well, the last guest that I had in here, we were talking about the substance of songs.
Okay.
And she described some of the things that are a little bit more commercial,
okay,
especially in terms of love, as, quote, shake that ass.
Oh, I see.
So there's that.
Right.
Or there's using metaphors and wordplay and turning things around like what you described about the dream,
right,
which is, in my humble opinion, not cliche at all. Really beautiful poetry.
Thank you.
In my view.
Well, there's
something that people can relate to.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but that if they've been through it, there's a relatability there, and I think a comfort to be able to hear that from somebody else's voice.
Yeah, I hope so too. And it's definitely a relatable thing. And love is a thing that you can do it. You can write about it skillfully, or you can not. And there's some music out there who they write about love, but there's no skill involved at all with what they're actually trying to say. So
just the rhyming dictionary,
just
right?
the rhyming dictionary.
What rhymes with baby? Maybe.
Yeah.
And you know what else? Baby.
Exactly. Say it as many. That's a chorus right there. Someone could remix what you just said into a hit song.
We could probably have a hit. You know what? I said to a friend of mine at work once, oh gosh, I could write a hit country record like later tonight. And he said, well, then why don't you? And I thought, okay, that's a fair point. Let's go back. I'm pleased because I remembered what I wanted to ask you about before was the writing process. So describe that to me. How does a song come to be for Chad Price?
Usually for me, what comes first is a melody on the guitar, on the acoustic guitar. I just know, again, songwriting is a tricky thing to nail down and talk about because it's so different for so many people. But for me, it always starts with a melody that I can't get out of my head, that I can't stop playing. And then what I do is I try to find out what the melody is saying before I even relate my own life experience to whatever it is I'm doing. Because I feel like instrumentally songs are saying something on their own. So I try to really connect with that. And then once a connection is made there, then I start kind of layering my own experiences on top of that to see if it will fit. It takes a lot of juggling. Some songs take weeks to make. Other songs come within an hour, and you have a song. It's really an inexplicable thing, and something that I'm still trying to figure out. I don't know if I ever will, but that's how I do it generally.
Do you find sometimes you'll have a melody and you'll love it and you want to play it and you want to hear the whole song because you're so jazzed about it, but you still don't know what it's about?
Oh, all the time.
There's no lyrics to it?
All the time. I have so many little melodies floating around in my phone or on my laptop that never made the cut, that were just, that's all they were. Sometimes they develop into big ideas that formulate a whole song. Other times that's their life. Their life is just this little melody that couldn't. But yeah, you have to figure all that out.
There's a song I have on my No Schedule Man CD. It's called Sunny Day in November. And I first came up with, I was just noodling around on the guitar, and I was just playing a straight C chord, and I was lifting my middle finger off whatever string that was on. And just the way that I was playing it, I liked. It was just one chord, but it was the way that I was playing it that I was jazzed about, and ended up turning that into something like what you just described. And I enjoyed it so much that I would play it, and it drove me crazy because I didn't know what the song was about, and I couldn't figure out the lyrics. And I think it stayed like that. I don't think I've ever told this story. I think it stayed like that for a matter of years before there was one day in November one year, there had been a snowstorm just prior to Halloween. And so it took down the weight of the snow because the leaves hadn't fallen off the trees yet. And it took down a whole bunch of branches all over London. And I was sitting in Victoria Park, and some of the, so it was after Halloween, but you saw, and it was like 20 something degrees out. So people are running through the park, with shorts and t-shirts on. And yet the evidence of the the winter storm was there because you could see it where all the branches of the trees had been cut, and yet that some of the holiday decorations were already up, and the colors of the leaves that hadn't fallen, and it was just, I remember sitting there at a picnic table thinking, this is a song, and I just started madly writing observations down, and that turned into the lyrics that just happened to match up with and that was just one example of one that actually ended up working out.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You never know when a song is going to hit you. Oftentimes, for me, they come in the middle of the night at the most inopportune times. I'm trying to sleep or something, and then all of a sudden these lyrics come strolling through my mind, and it's up to you whether to let them in or just, say, no, I'm going to sleep. Screw you. And then they're gone forever. So I do have a notepad beside my bed, and I write stuff all the time. Usually it turns into nothing. Sometimes it turns into everything. But music's one of those things where, for me, a lot of the times it's out of my control. And I try to be as mindless as I can sometimes with music, because the more you think about some things, that's when you might have a song that disappears on you. It's a really tricky, constantly changing thing for me.
But what about the melody? See, because sometimes it doesn't happen as much anymore, but sometimes my kids will catch me and they're like, "What are you doing, Dad?" And I'll be, down here with my phone going like, na 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 na, or whatever. But there's a melody and it pops in. It might even be just 3 notes, but it's the way that they go. If you don't capture it, it's amazing how fast it just leaves you, and you can never get it back.
Oh yeah.
So what do you do to hold on to that sort of? Because then you got to go and find it on the guitar, right?
Yeah. You're right, because I've lost so many things because I was too busy with something else. I'm like, oh, I'll remember that in an hour, and then it's gone, and you kick yourself. But
so we're talking about songwriting, and at some point you arrived at the point where you had a collection of songs that I'm imagining you decided, let's get this onto a CD.
Yeah.
Now, I guess maybe I shouldn't be assuming. Was that your decision, or is that maybe a gentle suggestion from the outside, or maybe even a combination of the two?
It was 100% my decision. I wrote all the songs on my first album while I was in university out in St. Catharines, and it's funny because I went to school for communications. I actually wanted to be a sports journalist, kind of something similar to, more close to your field. And within my first year of university, that completely changed, because that's when I realized that, music's my thing. There's the passion for something that I've been looking for. So university was a bit of a struggle in that I did a lot of writing, a lot of songwriting, and honing my craft, because it's something that needed to come out of me. It was kind of born out of necessity rather than want. So I passed all my classes and I got my degree. But as soon as I was done university, I went out and recorded these songs. That was kind of like my reward for finishing the job of university, is to go make an album. So the first thing I did is I got in touch with Bill Bell, who was my first choice of a producer. He had just made an album with Justin Nozuka, who is a Toronto artist who I'm also a big fan of. So I reached out to Bill and I'm like, hey, I'm this 22-year-old kid, just finished university, and I got all this music, and I'm just taking a shot in the dark here. Would you be interested in producing this music for me? And I sent him a couple files, and the next day he messaged me back and he said, this is great. When can we work? And I was amazed, because he's a guy that he's had like 30 or 40 years in the industry. People know who he is. He's produced Tom Cochrane and been all over the world and tours with Jason Mraz still to this day. And
how did you find him to reach out to him?
I found out who produced that Justin Nozuka album that I was in love with, UI, Wind, Land, and Sea. That was the album that I was listening to, and I loved the production of it. And so I just said, I'm going to talk to whoever produced that. And he was a Canadian. He was in Toronto, so he was close. And that made the choice even easier. And I reached out, and it worked out. That's another lesson to all you aspiring musicians. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, but you're leaving something out. Like, was there a company that you could reach out to, or did you ask somebody for his email address, or how'd you get a hold of him?
It was actually on MySpace. That's
MySpace.
Right. It was MySpace. I reached out to him on MySpace. That was still a thing back in 2009 or whenever it was.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how that's funny now. That's how I reached out to him on MySpace. But yeah, that's how it started.
MySpace. Sorry, now you've thrown me off.
MySpace. Remember that, folks?
Yeah, I do. Does Justin Timberlake still own part of that?
I have no idea.
Boy, good investments and bad, I guess. Okay, so you've reached out to him. He responds to the files that you've sent him and said, when can we work together? What happens from there?
Then it's a matter of funding, because making an album is not a cheap thing. Luckily, people around me saw how passionate I was and how serious I was about this, and I was able to get a lot of help from friends and family who helped me make that album. So we got the money together, and then I got into the studio with Bill in Toronto. We recorded at Orange Lounge Studios. And again, I'm just a kid who just graduated from university. I don't know anything about the music industry. I'm just following my gut and my heart here and hoping that it all works out at the end of the day. So this is my first time in a professional music studio. Everything's kind of intimidating to me and overwhelming a little bit. But for the next month, we made that album, and we got it done, and it got my foot in the door. It allowed me to do a lot of things. It's part of the reason why I'm here today talking to you. And yeah, I love that album, even as nascent as my skill was at that time.
Nascent?
Nascent, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a songwriting kind of a term.
Yeah.
That's somebody who practices vocabulary.
I've always been a writer.
Okay.
So, right. No. I wanted to be a sports writer, right? It kind of went into music.
How many other musicians did you have to bring in to be able to get that thing done?
Quite a few. I'd say about 12 to 15 other session guys we had come in. Pat Kilbride came in, an amazing bass player. Ron Lapata, he's the keyboard player from Jack Soul. Lyle Molzan on drums, he's Jan Arden's drummer, and all these other awesome artists. So the people I worked with were professional, like top tier professional artists, and that was one of the pros of working with Bill, in that he has all these connections and all these friends, and he's been doing it for so long that you're able to work with the best of the best. So that was quite a treat, and something that usually doesn't happen for someone making their first album who doesn't know what they're doing.
And Bill was with you there through the whole thing?
Yep, Bill produced all 10 tracks. He made it pretty easy for me. He helped me. For a lot of it, I kind of stood back because, as I'm sure you could imagine, I'm a young kid. Bill's the pro. I let him. I mean, they're my songs. I wrote them and created them, but Bill kind of took them into the studio and molded them in a certain way that would be presentable. And that's different today now that I'm more established and have more experience. On this next album that I'm working on, I'm very, very hands-on, and I'm actually co-producing it. Whereas on the first one, I'm the artist, and I have a producer producing it.
I'm leaving a lot of stuff here, but I'm going to jump forward then to now from In This Dream to the single Honesty that you released last year. Tell me about it.
Yeah, Honesty. That's a tune that I also went and recorded with Bill Bell. That song was made out of me needing to get something out there into the public because it had been a while since I last released something studio quality. So I called Bill up and I said, I got this song. I want to put something out there. And having already established a work relationship, Bill was all for it. And that was great. We made a great track. And again, that was something that I really just needed to fill the void in between my last album and what I have coming out later this year.
I'm going to go backwards now. This is lousy interviewing skills, but it's my own podcast, so
hey,
we
do what you want.
Whatever we want.
That's right.
Back to so In This Dream comes out. You've had this experience. It's a completely new endeavor for you. I can only just imagine what that was like. We're going to have to do part 2, 3, and 4 to this podcast because I'd love to ask you an hour's worth of questions just about that experience. Cool. But now the album's out. Then what?
The album was out, and then I shopped it. Then I shopped the album once it was not out. Sorry, the album was completed, and I shopped it around to labels.
Okay, what is that for people that don't know? What does that mean? Shopped it. Like, what are you actually physically doing that you're calling shopping?
Yeah, shopping is you're contacting these labels and asking them, hey, I have this new piece of work. It's ready to be released. It's mastered and ready to go. Do you want to get behind this and put it out there through your label, through your publishing, and basically put your money into it so that it can be seen and heard by as many people as possible? So that's what I did for a few months after the album was released. And I dealt with some major labels, and I did some showcasing for labels. For EMI was one of the big ones that I showcased for. So it all happened pretty fast. Here I am, a kid, not knowing what I'm doing, and I'm showcasing for major labels, and they might get my album on through their label. But that ended up not working out, and what I ended up doing is signing with an independent boutique label called, I don't even know what they're called. It wasn't a good experience. But they released my first album, and they helped me out with some things, but overall it was a bad experience, and I'm not with them anymore, and I got out of that agreement. But then I was out playing shows, touring a little bit. I had my music on TSN during their March Madness 2012 broadcast, and then Degrassi used my song Another Day. It was on the radio for a bit in the U.S. It actually...
That charted, right?
Yeah.
That spent several weeks in the top 40, did it not?
It did. It charted on U.S. radio for like 7 or 8 weeks. I think it reached peak position number 52 on Hot AC radio. So I was able to have some success, and it was played here in London too, and other parts of Canada, and that was a pretty surreal feeling, driving around and hearing your own song on the radio. So I was getting like little tastes of success, but not knowing at all yet that there's still so much work to be done. And that's what I'm still doing.
So you're working on full length number 2.
That's right.
And that sounds like an ongoing process.
It is. It's taken a little longer than I had hoped, but it's all coming together. Right now I'm working with some people that I probably shouldn't say yet who they are, but they're very established in the industry, and they work with some very well-known names. And I'm with them, and it just takes a while sometimes to get their attention and really get on their radar. But that's why it's taken as long as it has taken, because it's worth it. It's worth the wait.
Yeah, it's really not a sprint.
No.
Is it?
No. There's a lot of hurry up and wait in this industry. You have to pay your dues, and that's what I'm doing.
Well, and in life, they say that life is short, and it is, but I think it's also long.
Yes.
Like, you got to have patience, and you got to be willing to dig your ditches and let yourself evolve.
That's right.
And be open to those things. And I'm really excited for you that you're doing that, and then you're happy with being Chad Price. And because I think I can speak for the rest of your fans, as we just want to hear more of it and look forward to that. In the short term then, considering that this podcast will probably come out somewhere around about the end of March or beginning of April. So I saw a date on your site that was somewhere near the end of March. Mm-hmm. What, if anything, can you tell people about, where to maybe expect to catch up with you maybe later in 2016?
Yep. There are some big plans in the works right now for this year. I plan on being on tour in Europe and Canada. I can say that. So just go to my website, chadpricemusic.com. All the information will be there. In the meantime, I'm doing a lot of writing and a lot of recording. The album will be released at some point this summer, and hopefully you'll hear about it and come check me out at a show, because I'm really looking forward to this year, and big things are happening, and can't wait.
Thanks so much for coming and sitting in my No Schedule Man studios.
Oh, thank you for having me,
my kitchen.
I appreciate it.
It never sounded so good. I appreciate you doing this, Chad. Thanks again.
Thanks, Kevin.
It sure sounds like there's some cool things coming up for Chad in 2016 and beyond, and I hope that all works out for him. You can stay up to date at chadpricemusic.com. Of course, you can find all his social media links there. You can subscribe to his YouTube channel by going to YouTube and just search Chad Price, and you'll find him there. I sure appreciated him being so generous with his time, and if you have any interest in Chad Price's music at all, I hope that you'll go support him also. Just go to his show, follow his Facebook page, buy his record. It's available on iTunes and all online outlets as well. As for me, you can join me online at kevinbulmer.com. NoScheduleMan.com also works and goes to the same place. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to join me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or SoundCloud. You can find me on any of those platforms, either at or /NoScheduleMan. And of course, the links to all those feeds are on my website, kevinbulmer.com as well. Say hi, leave a comment, let me know that you're out there. Remember, you can download and subscribe to this podcast at iTunes or on SoundCloud. Thanks again so much for listening. We'll catch you next time on the No Schedule Man podcast.
But here I am again, and here we're gonna go. I wish that I knew where, but I don't have a clue. Just a little deja vu.